this is my review of Mob Psycho 100. Okay, so it's the final episode of the second season of Mob Psycho 100, and what an episode it was! It was actually kind of amazing. It tied up most of the loose ends for the story, and also kind of opened up some new ones for the third season, which we know is coming because there's still two whole arcs that haven't been adapted into the anime yet. So yeah, it starts off with Mob and Toichiro facing off against each other using their psychic powers. And Mob eventually loses himself to his psychic powers, with something that Toichiro gloats over, pointing out that even though he acts all high and mighty, they are very similar deep down. And as I pointed out last episode, they kind of are. They're kind of foils of one another, with Mob having developed friends along the way, and Toichiro just kind of shutting everybody out and just going off on his own. So Mob does kind of lose it a little bit, but upon seeing Ritsu's concerned face, I guess we could call it, upon seeing Ritsu's concerned face, he finally snaps out of his lunacy, I guess, his power trip, and realizes that he let his psychic powers get the better of him, and opts to be better. At which point Toichiro remarks that Mob is a little emotionally unstable and probably will never catch up to him at that rate. At which point Mob remarks that he doesn't really understand what happened to cause Toichiro to become the way he was, pointing out that he was most likely just not lucky. And Toichiro responds that he was in fact very lucky, quote unquote, because he developed some of the most powerful psychic powers in the world, and believes that everybody else is just a side character to bolster his light. At which point, Mob realizes that Toichiro just believes that he is indeed the center of his own story, and to that end he is, because everybody's the center of their own story. But unlike Mob, who decided to go along and become friends with everybody, Toichiro just decided, everybody else is worthless because I'm the main character, so I'm just going to use my psychic powers for my own means, and that's really going to be the last of it. So Mob realizing that they're basically one and the same, with one distinct exception in that Mob has friends and Toichiro doesn't, opts that he needs to actually defeat Toichiro, but he's regrettably a little sad about it. He starts crying and points out that though Toichiro may not believe him, Mob really doesn't want to hurt him, and then uses a bunch of debris from the now destroyed city below them to and I kid you not, this is actually what happens. He actually traps Toichiro in a giant ball of buildings, and it's glorious, and it's just a big ball of buildings. And everybody believes that Mob has soundly defeated Toichiro and that peace can finally return to the city. But with only Ritsu being actually concerned about how far Mob is pushing himself. But then Sho remarks that that's not actually the end, and points out that Toichiro, when push comes to shove, does become a lot stronger as time goes on. And sure enough, he immediately bursts out of the ball of buildings after it careens into the ground, and begins attacking Mob with everything he's got, eventually stunning Mob into submission. And it's at this point where Toichiro's face has notably become a lot more distorted, as he's starting to reach his limit on how much power he can output at once, and it shows. His face is a big mess. He's got veins protruding from every orifice on his face. He looks gross, and he doesn't even look human for the most part. He has a big melty face, and after gaining his new surge of power and knocking out Mob, he picks Mob up with his psychic powers and remarks that Mob can't just walk away from the fight and to open his eyes. At which point Mob responds he's done and is tired of trying to actually face off against him, and realizes that he actually won't be able to show him a new way forward in his life, and regrets that he's unable to do so. And while Toichiro is initially very angry at Mob for saying that and begins attacking them, it only becomes apparent moments later as to what Mob actually meant. he was tired of dealing with Toichiro and trying to show him how to be a better person, so he opted instead to just kill him. And sure enough, Mob uses his psychic powers to quite literally twist Toichiro into a pretzel. I kid you not. He twists him in ways that limbs and body parts should not move, and it seems like Toichiro should be dying, but he's not. However, before Mob can finish Toichiro off, Toichiro goes into his 100% mode, similar to Mob, and just unleashes all of his power at once, which sends Mob flying, and to the point where Mob believes that he's going to die, but realizes that he needs to suck it up because he realizes that the pain of facing off against Toichiro at 100% power output is a lot less painful than the thought of everybody he knows and loves being destroyed alongside him. So he fights back against Toichiro and are fighting through the inner underground of the now destroyed city, with Toichiro having taken a very demonic appearance. As I said earlier, he starts to stop looking human in between the fight, in the middle of the fight. But here he just stops being human altogether. His face is now glowing orange. He looks like Dormammu from Marvel. He looks like Dormammu basically. He looks like just a being of pure energy, and he's just at full power. And now that both of them are at full power, Mob and Toichiro get into one last fight. But the fight ends prematurely when Toichiro loses control of his power output and begins to self-destruct. Mob, realizing the imminent danger, tells everybody what's going on and evacuates them all before trying to contain the explosion himself, which only Dimple and Reagan actually notice. So Mob goes back into the bowels of the city to confront Toichiro one last time and try to contain the explosion, pointing out that he doesn't have the heart to kill him, but also points out that he doesn't want to hurt him either, but wants to try and save as many people as he can. And he remarks to Toichiro that his powers aren't able to solve everything, and that's okay with him as long as he can save everybody he loves. And points out that the main reason he decided to stay was because even though he doesn't get along with Toichiro, he realizes that nobody should have to suffer the final death alone, and points out that he should be able to, at the very least, help him out through his final moments. And Toichiro, in the process, realizes that his wife said something very similar to him before she left him, and realizes that he never actually got a chance to make up with her. And Mob, sensing his emotions via his own psychic powers, begins to absorb some of Toichiro's energy to try and save him so that he can apologize to his wife, pointing out that Mob also has somebody he wants to say goodbye to and tell them his feelings, namely Tsubomi, who we know up to this point Mob has been harboring feelings for, and is planning to at one point confess to. So Mob begins absorbing Toichiro's energy, but is unable to actually stop the explosion from going off. However, they actually managed to survive the explosion. Toichiro is later revealed. Mob is revealed to have survived the explosion, and his friends come looking for him. And the next morning, it's actually revealed that Toichiro also survived the explosion and is arrested by Joe, or whatever his name is. The guy who can make smoke out of nothing and use that as a psychic weapon. So Mob is immediately saved by his friends who dig him out of wherever he is. And Dimple even remarks that there's a giant hole where his pocket used to be, and that the burst of psychic energy actually healed everybody's wounds, which is actually kind of amazing. And it's even something goes far deeper. I'll explain a little bit later. But the psychic explosion actually healing everybody goes a little bit deeper than just wounds that were inflicted recently, and I'll explain that in a minute. But in any case, Mob's friends escort him out of whatever it is. It's clearly implied to be something. It's not quite a building, and it's very distinctly a tree-like, but it's not. It's never explained what it is till the end of the episode. But in any case, Mob is escorted out of whatever it is, and Reagan begins to explain exactly what happened after the explosion went off, But before he can, Mob collapses, and only Ritsu is actually concerned, because everybody else has been there, done that. So they kind of know that when Mob overexerts himself, he suddenly becomes very tired and goes into a deep sleep. Something Ritsu wasn't around for the first time, so Mob has to catch him up to speed. At which point, Teru volunteers to carry Mob with his psychic powers until they arrive at the school to pick up a change of clothes, which happen to be in the Body Improvement Club room. And Teru parts ways to go back to his apartment, and Reigen volunteers to give the Kageyama boys a place to stay by volunteering that they stay at his apartment, which Ritsu is implied to have turned down due to just being like, no. He just gives Reigen a death glare, and that's it. That's the end of the conversation. But in any case, Reigen escorts them back to the school, which concerns President Goda, who realizes that there probably shouldn't be people in the school that late, but upon seeing that it's Mob and his friends, realizes, wait, don't you guys have a house missing? And then sure enough, calls up the rest of the Body Improvement Club and opts to have them stay at his grandma's house while their house is being rebuilt, pointing out that they're now going to have a 3-day training program. And sure enough, Ritsu is very despaired at the thought of having to work out for a full 3 days, and Reigen kind of lets him eat it. Reigen basically dismisses Ritsu and tells him, okay, have fun, and basically that's it. Ritsu kind of turned down Reigen's hospitality, and now he's going to suffer for it. But yeah, in any case, things are more or less resolved. The next day, everybody is going about their business. The scars have now been fully healed of their scars. As I said earlier, it goes deeper than wounds inflicted that day, and it actually, in fact, healed the scars pre-existing, scars. And it also caused a bit of a commotion, because suddenly there's just this giant thing that's just there. It's implied to be a giant tree, but what the tree is, again, I will have to explain. But people watching this episode have most likely figured it out, and people who follow the manga have most likely figured it out as well. So maybe I'm spoiling it, maybe I'm not, but in any case, the scars are now healed of their wounds and looking for new jobs. Reigen is able to move back into the Spirits and Slush consultation office due to the fact that the arson attack on his building actually wasn't an attack at all, but rather a mouse just got into the wiring and set everything on fire. And the second the insurance company figured out, it was just a mouse, they gave him the insurance company kicked in, and now he's moving back into his office. And sure enough, Serizawa, after saying goodbye to the boss, after the boss says goodbye to him and Sho. So the scene is that he's been arrested. I explained that already. But he explains to Serizawa before he goes that he realizes that Serizawa's innocent nature will most likely be taken advantage of, and he should do his best not to try and avoid that if he can. And he remarks to Sho that he regrets that he was such a rift between Sho and his mother, and hopes that he will be able to make up with her one day. And to which Sho remarks that he's actually been in contact with Mom the whole time, and that she's going to give him an earful once he's in prison. So he's not going to be able to escape his lecture. And also, as he's being hauled away by Joe, he realizes Toichiro, remembering that Mob had once extended his hand in friendship to him, motions back as if to take it, implying that he wants to be Mob's friend, but he doesn't really know how to make that happen, and doesn't know if he ever will be able to make that happen because now he's been arrested. But in any case, that's just an aside where Serizawa has now parted ways with Claw, and it's revealed that he's actually taking a job at Reigen's office. He's been hired on as an employee, mainly because Reigen realizes that Serizawa may be more effective at helping out with psychic powers and the such, because he realizes that he can't rely on Mob for everything. And since the opportunity presented itself, he realized he probably should hire another Esper in case Mob isn't able to make a job. So he does that, and he even bought Sorosawa's suit and cleans him up as soon as he gets to the office, which is actually kind of sweet. It's kind of a sweet little moment where Reagan basically helps Sorosawa out and helps him get back on his feet by giving him an actual job. But in any case, now the question remains of how do they continue building up the office, and Mob, sure enough, starts helping out by helping grow plants using his psychic powers before realizing he was given a big bag of broccoli seeds in the first ever episode of the second season, and just realized that they happened to be in the breast pocket, which is now an exploded mess. And while Reagan is initially dismissive of it, he eventually realizes that that's exactly what happened. There's now a giant broccoli plant growing in the middle of Seasoning City, where the cultural tower used to be. So they realized that they probably should keep their mouths shut and should probably never say anything to anybody. And also the Awakening Lab disbands, sort of. The Awakening Lab disbands mostly because they don't want to be involved in the experiments that will enable them to create psychic powers and give people psychic powers artificially. As they point out that somebody is eventually going to be granted psychic powers, go mad with power, and do exactly what Toichiro did, and they don't want to be a part of that. And the boss of the Awakening Lab understands, but also remarks that he wants them to stop by and visit every once in a while, pointing out that he does care for them, and he decides to stop using them as lab rats, but instead decides to become their friends instead, and which they gladly accept. So, yeah, it's a happy ending for everybody all around, but now there's a giant tree in the middle of Seasoning City. So, well, tree in air quotes, it's a giant piece of broccoli, but you get the point. But yeah, that's what is going to be the next arc, by the way. It's going to be covering the tree, and I'm going to be looking forward to that when Season 3 gets adapted. I don't know when it is, but who knows? It might get adapted at some point in the future. However long it takes, again, it may be a while, since it does take a while for it to get adapted into manga, then the manga to get adapted into the anime, and then for the anime to actually air. And also with the coronavirus going around, it may be a little bit longer since no animation studios can actually go in and do their jobs. So it's maybe a little while before we actually see season 3, but there are quite a few other anime that I can watch in the meantime. So now I need to go find something else to do with my time. But in any case, yeah, that's the end of Mob Psycho 100, at least for now. I will come back with season 3 eventually. But for right now, I do think I'm going to leave this episode here. So if you guys did enjoy this episode of Mob Psycho 100, what did you guys think? Let's get a discussion going in the comment section down below, or over on my Discord server, link in the description. Anyway, thank you guys so much for watching. If you enjoyed, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Also be sure to follow me on Facebook and on Twitter in the description below. And also check out my Patreon in the description below as well. It's only a couple bucks a month. It really helps me out. And you guys get access to a bunch of cool perks on my way saying thanks, so be sure to check those out in the description below as well. But in any case, thank you guys so much for watching, and until next time, I will see you guys in the next video. Peace!